Hello and welcome back to your favorite St. Louis sports podcast, The Lounatics. I'm your host, Tyler, along with my friend and co-host, John, here for another wonderful and exciting episode to talk about St. Louis sports and all of its glory. It was some excitement and some rough things over the weekend for St. Louis sports. We'll kick it off with something less sports related. John, what did you just pour out over there?
I am drinking the first of several of my winnings against you in bets, which, by the way, we need to make a new bet. But you're afraid of losing now because, and I get it, you're bad at gambling. But anyway, this one is the S'mores Stout from Big Muddy Brewing, which I believe is from Murfreesboro. So basically, St. Louis. It's close enough.
It's just, it's over the river somewhere.
Right. We actually know someone from there.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't know that, I'll tell you who later if you don't remember. What are you drinking?
Anyway, I'm being lame, and I'm back with the Maker's Mark.
You are lame. You got to mix it up.
I know. I've just been on a kick recently, man, and I have 3 bottles of it, so enjoying it while I have it.
You can really smell the graham cracker in the stout. I'm kind of surprised by that. Like, I kind of expected it to be heavy on chocolate and marshmallow, and I kind of want
to see your face after you taste it.
It's good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a solid for what I was expecting and what I got. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good. Ooh, chocolate hits a little later too.
Yeah. Okay.
There it is. Okay.
There it is.
There it is. Anyway, let's talk St. Louis sports. Do you want to start with the Cardinals or do you want to start with City SC?
Battlehawks. I'm going to start on the high note.
Oh, okay. Start on a high note.
So Battlehawks played the San Antonio Brahmas. Winner got home field advantage through this first leg of the playoffs, by which I mean there's only 8 teams. So there's the semifinals and the final. But winner got home field in the semifinals. And St. Louis Battlehawks pulled out the win, 13-12.
There we go. There it is.
Yeah, it was crazy. The dome was hopping. It was home. And to be able to have that game home, it is such an advantage. And if, assuming we win that and go to the championship game, that will also be here at the Battle Dome. So, I mean, just great opportunity there for the Battlehawks to maybe bring home a championship.
Do you think it's sustainable, the UFL?
It's going to be TV deal dependent. The attendance at games outside of St. Louis is abysmal, but the TV ratings have not been terrible. And as long as they can keep TV deals running, that's where the money actually rolls in.
Yeah. I don't know. Let me put it to you this way: if this actually lasts, that would not surprise me. If we found out in 3 months that they were shutting it down, that would not surprise me. I could see either going on.
I think the combination of the USFL and the XFL set them up for longer term success, and doing the hub and spoke model that they're doing, right? Everyone kind of practices and is based out of one city, and then they go to their home cities for the games and things. I think that also helps keep their costs down considerably. So they're in a good place, I think, financially. I think we get at least another couple seasons for them to catch on. The big piece is going to be whether or not the other teams around the league catch on. And then if the Battlehawks fandom stays as passionate as they have been.
Right. And we'll see. That's, we don't know. Caw. Okay. When is that next game, by the way? Is it next week?
Sunday at, I think, like 6 p.m. or something. I'll find out. You go ahead and hop into the next topic, and I'll tell you when it is.
Sure. Next topic is the Cardinals, who were looking really, really great until they suddenly weren't again. Since we last talked, they lost the series to the Phillies. They are about to lose a series to the Astros, who are abysmal this year. So it's not been a fun week for the Cardinals. We took that series against the Reds, which was great, and then since then we've been meh.
I will say the Astros have been more like the Astros of recent years in the last little stretch here. So while they started out abysmal, they have not been the same. Like, we're catching them at the wrong time.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's not doing us many favors either. I'm not saying, they're quite as dominant as they were, a couple of years ago, but when you run into a team that has talent and knows how to win, and they just started winning when you run into them, and I say just started more recently, we'll see what happens. Now it is 7-5 right now after the 2-run Mason Wynn home run, which kind of cut into their lead a little bit for us. We're still in the 7th inning, so there's still some time. We got a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance?
There is a chance. I will say, what day was that? May 17th. So they had a really good stretch in the middle of May, but their last 10 has actually been a losing record. Before tonight, they had only won 4 of their last 10. And then they kind of had a weird stretch where they were like, win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game for like 4 or 5. So, I mean, yeah, but they're still well under 500. And they're in the AL West, which is not exactly the best division in baseball.
I mean, is the NL Central any better?
No, it is not. I think the NL Central is closer in quality top to bottom than the AL West is, though. But now
we just had another error.
standings. That's the problem. That's the thing I wanted to talk about, is the fact that we are committing all of these errors this year. And that was kind of an issue last year, too. We were not very good on defense last year. And it's beginning to really frustrate me, because when you think about Cardinals baseball, you think about playing sound defense, really good professional defense. And yet we're not. We're making these stupid mistakes with handling the ball or overthrowing it. And it's letting in runs. I mean, was it last night? 2 nights ago against the Phillies, we won a game 5-4, and all 4 of those runs were unearned. So, like, the pitching did its job. It was the fielding that completely let it down.
I mean, yeah, and it's, we were winning games, and this streak and this trend started while we were winning games, and I think it kind of masked the fact that our fundamentals and our fielding was looking atrocious. But now that the last going into the Philly series, right, we lost 2 or 3 against the Phillies, then we lost the first ones. We've lost 3 of our last 4, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, the errors. And I'm like, well, yeah, this has been a problem for a few weeks now, right? I mean, essentially for the last 3 weeks, we have been one of the most error prone teams in baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually pulling up the fielding stats right now. I wonder, how do I get to the full team? What really jumps out, though, is that Mason Wynn has 10 errors, which, I mean, he's the shortstop, right? The ball finds the shortstop a lot.
And some of those, so I've talked about this on the podcast before, right? It's how does Mason Wynn have more errors than Alec Burleson? Well, if you can get to the ball, you have a higher probability of having an error too. So some of that is some of those errors are just him getting to balls and trying to make a play where maybe he'd be better off just eating the ball and just sitting tight.
See, I don't buy that, because if you look at Arenado historically, like, he won't be credited for errors that are those types of plays, because he's always been the kind of guy who goes for those types of plays. Right. And he hasn't always been credited with an error for it, because other guys just straight up wouldn't even try for it. And the official scoring person does tend to give players a bit of leeway with that. Some of these balls that Wynn is making errors on are like, Gorman's tossing it to him at the bag and he drops it out of his glove. Right. Or he's going for the tag and it rolls out. right? Like things like that, like fundamentals of baseball. That's what I've been noticing over the last week or two. It's not these crazy diving plays he's trying to make that other guys would just let go by because there's no chance of getting it. It's these double plays that he's failing to turn and things like that.
I get that. I just I wouldn't read. I'm not reading too much into his errors specifically. I think he's got a little, I wouldn't say he's got the yips by any mean.
No, I don't think he's got the yips. I'm just saying.
I think he's going. I think he will straighten it out. He's too talented to not. But my concern is that it's the whole team, right? With Mason Wynn, he's got somebody, and it sounds like him and Brandon Crawford have stricken up quite the friendship. And Brandon Crawford thinks very highly of him. But I just don't.
He has literally double the errors of the next closest person on the team. And the next closest is Gorman, and then Arenado is tied with Gorman at 5 each. And then it's just a bunch of people with 1 or 2.
Gorman just kicked a routine ground ball a few minutes. That's the error that I just saw. So Gorman's ahead of Wynn, or ahead of Arenado now.
Right. Well, and Wynn had one early in this game too, right? In the first.
I didn't see the first inning or two of the game.
Sure, he did. Yeah,
it's fine.
Either way, it has. We have to cut this shit out. It's not fine. We are 10th highest in the majors in errors. Like, that's a problem.
I hear what you're saying. I think you're coming down on Mason Wynn real hard though for a rookie shortstop.
I mean, what we expected of Mason Wynn is that he would be very good defensively and not that great at the plate, and it's kind of been a little bit the opposite. I'm not coming down on him. I'm just saying our shortstop has 10 errors and we're like 6 weeks into the season. That's an issue.
He's a rookie. I'm not gonna. I agree it needs to get better, and I think it needs to improve. But again, when I look at it, it's not to me. It's not a Mason Wynn centric issue, right? It's the whole team, right? If Nolan Arenado, who typically doesn't have errors, already has 5 on the season. I mean, like that's 1 a week. That's pretty high for him, right? If you're saying 6 weeks into the season, which is actually it's more than that into the season, we're like
8 weeks,
9 weeks into the season. But even still, right? And Gorman's forced to play a lot more second base this year than I would like him to. I would love to see him DH a little more, but with all the outfield injuries and everything, we haven't had the players to spell him. When he's playing, he's been in the field. So,
I mean, really, Arenado's not even on track to have his highest error season, right? Like last year he had 9. Okay, the year before that he had 12. 2020, that was a short season. 2020 he only had 3. But I mean, in 2015 he had 17, and 2014 he had 15. He's roughly on pace for 15, which is higher end for his career, but it's not even the highest that he's ever had. But between Gorman, Arenado, and Wynn, the 3 of them are 2/3 of our errors.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, you're going to see them mostly from those positions too, because if you think about the types of plays that your second baseman, your shortstop, and your third baseman have to make, they're coming into contact with the ball a lot more in harder situations than your outfielders are, right? But that's still a problem.
If you say, what are we? Are we just over 1/3 of the way through the season now?
Roughly, yeah. We're like close to 60 games. Upper 50s, I think.
We'll say we're 1/3 of the way through the season. We're probably a little more than 1/3. But if you say 1/3 of the way through the season, you're sitting at 20 errors across 3 people. We're talking 60 errors across your 3 infielders for the year, and that's way too many. I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
But you have to take into effect, right? Gorman's still learning second base. I mean, we don't realize how little time he's truly been in the bigs, and at second base, he's been this is his 3rd year in the league now.
I think it's his 2nd year, and he came up late in 22, so 2nd full season in the bigs.
2nd full season, and still is learning a new position.
It is his 4th season playing second base, though. It's not that doesn't fly on Gorman anymore. He's played second base since Nolan Arenado came here in 2021. Like he's not learning the position anymore.
He's still not again. He's not a natural second baseman. It goes back even you're forcing somebody out of their norm. I expect there to be errors, but the flip side is I don't expect Gorman to play second base every day. Like I don't expect him to be the fielder. I expect him to be my DH a lot of days, and he's not.
Well, that's true. That's a roster construction issue.
It's an injury. It's an injury issue.
Well, yeah, but also it's the fact that Goldie and Contreras is out, of course, but are on this team because Contreras can't catch every day. So there's a lot of days that he's DHing if he's healthy when he shouldn't be, and then Goldie is DHing semi-regularly. It seems like lately. And then, Burley has played well enough that he's going to be in the lineup if he's not in the field.
And with the injuries, he's been, but the thing is when our outfield's healthy, if all of our players are healthy right now, I feel like our best team, Burley's in the lineup, and I almost feel like he has to be your DH.
Yeah, probably.
If you're trying to put your best team out there, just the way he's been swinging the bat.
Yeah, no, I would agree. He's homered, 3 days in a row now?
Something like that, yeah. And and we talked about earlier, right? Like if you are messing up in the field or you are having struggles in fielding, like you have to be able to make up for it with your bat. And that's one thing that I feel like at least recently Gorman has been doing, and Mason Wynn has done all year.
Yeah, I mean,
so you can live with a few more. You can live with a few more errors from these guys, though, if they're producing at the plate.
But they're not producing enough at the plate to offset it.
You don't think Mason Wynn's not? You don't think he's producing at the plate enough?
I'm talking about Gorman, not Mason Wynn. Mason Wynn is fine, but Gorman is not producing enough at the plate. Gorman's
last 3-4 weeks have been solid across the board.
How far back do you want to go? I will 100% look at his stats. His stats have not moved that much, I don't think.
Go look at the last 3 weeks. And Philly series was rough for our whole team, but he still was the one who was the driving force for us. I mean, he had 3 of our 5 RBIs in the game we won. And one of those was a wonderful piece of hitting, fighting off and then finding a pitch he could just put into play. I think he hit another home run tonight. Could be wrong. I mean, Gorman's got what? I don't know. He may not have. I know Burley hit a home run tonight.
Prior to tonight, his average was still 230, and he actually has picked up a little bit of power lately. His OPS is now finally above 800 again after last night's game. Because last night he had a really good game with 2 home runs that boosted it quite a bit. But I mean, Gorman to make up for that, like I know he's a second baseman and that's more than you would expect out of your second baseman or about what you would hope for out of your second baseman. Gorman's power profile, like he should easily be an upper 800s, 900 OPS guy, and he hasn't been that yet. Now he is improving. I will give you that. Since the beginning of May, his batting average at the beginning of May was still in the 100s. He's now at 230. So he has improved by about 30% on there. But
where did you say it was when he at the beginning?
May 1st is 190, and before today's game, it was 230.
I mean, if you think about that, that's almost a dead split from half of the season each way, right? So he was hitting 190 for the first half of the games we've played so far.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And then he's hitting 2. So, I mean, which means he's realistically been 270.
If the at-bats are the same, yeah. And I don't know if the at-bats are the same or not, but yeah, I see what you're saying there.
But 270 with power and not, with the power he's put up, I'd still love to see him cut down in strikeouts, but I think we all would. But I could say the same for about 90% of our players.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but his on base percentage goes up by almost a full point, though, from his batting average. It goes up by about 0.9. So, like, he's walking, right? He does strike out a lot, but he is walking. I mean, he's getting more walks than, say, Arenado is.
So I guess that's what I'm saying, though. Like, if what he's produced over the last month is more indicative of what he's going to produce for the year, and he puts up 15 errors for the season, you can live with 15 errors from your second baseman with that kind of production. If they're going to hit, you're at that point, you're talking 35 to 40 home runs, which what would be the pace he'd be on. So,
okay, for like the single month, but you also have to remember that he has like a month before that where he's not on that pace. So I don't think
we're saying he's a third of the way through the season. He's got 11 or 12 home runs. That's 36 home runs.
That's not 40 home runs.
I said 30 to 40 home runs is what I said, or 35 to 40, which 36 would still be in the range of.
Today is game 53. So he's actually got 13. He had 13 home runs before going into today's game.
So 39 home runs.
39.
Pace. So yeah. So which is still
your point is right,
range,
but your math was wrong.
How is my math wrong? I said 35 to 40.
You said he has 11 home runs, which puts him
I said 11 or 12. To 40. I said 11 or 12. Which is still 11 times 3 is still 33. 11 times
that's not
12
40.
times 3 is 36. I gave a range, and 40 was the high of the range. You're choosing to hear what you want to hear.
I'm not choosing to hear what I want to hear. You're choosing to make things sound better than what they do when you first explain them.
Still, did the math check out?
It did, but only because you had the home run total wrong.
Again, 30 to 40 home runs is still 30 to 40 home runs, and the math still checked out there.
A 40 home run season for him would be really good. Actually, a 35 home run season for him would be really, really good.
Which,
I wish I knew what his
on
total
pace
was.
for.
He is now, yeah. I wish I knew what he'd had in April. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he had 4 home runs in April, and then and then the other 9 has been since May 1st, which also makes sense if you think about the team's performance in that time as far as like the games we've won. May compared to April, right?
They've also moved him up in the batting order, so he's been hitting fourth with, or hitting third and fourth. But he's had better production. He's had better pitches to see.
Right. Well, and like tonight he was fourth. They, because Arenado does make a lot of contact, and when both of those guys are getting on base, the hope is, of course, that they're going to protect Goldie, which I don't think has really happened. But Burley batting second, he's seen the ball so well this year. And Donnie is Donnie, right? Like he's been not getting on. He's not been making contact as well as I would like, but he's still getting on base. What's going on with him?
Because we haven't been playing him. Dude, what got hurt on him? Because I missed something.
What was it? I saw it earlier tonight. It was like back tightness or something. I think is what I saw. Yeah, it
wasn't like a major injury because he didn't go in that injury report, but like he just hadn't really been playing, and so it's just one of those like. But again, like I said, and
baseball's a weird sport. It fucks your back up.
Baseball's a weird sport and across the board and how it rolls, but when you look at, but again. Going back to the original point of why we got into Gorman's stats, which is, can you live with a more error-prone second baseman and more error-prone shortstop if you're getting additional their bats are carrying them, and I think you can. The problem is how long, right? And it depends on how error-prone are we talking, right? 15 errors in a season on a second baseman, and that hits, we'll say 35 home runs. Yeah, you can take that, right?
Probably take that. As long as if he's also getting some doubles and continues to draw the walks that he has, I would say so.
Well, and the timely hitting, right? The extra innings base hit. Is
clutch. He does hit clutch. And I don't care what they say. I do believe clutch hitting is a legitimate thing. Like,
it's a completely different thing. Some guys in the moment just focus in.
Right. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a text from Scott tomorrow that it's not really a thing, because I'm pretty sure he did a major math assignment. He's a math teacher, if you didn't know. Originally, he was a math teacher. Did a major research project in college over this exact stat. Gonna find out what that is as soon as this posts. Who do you think has the highest OBP on the team other than Mason Wynn?
Burley.
It's not Burley, actually. Burley is kind of low. And I'm actually
okay. That not actively playing. Okay, I was like, that's Contreras, actively playing, because I was ruling Contreras out. Herrera's got to be up there.
He is. He's actually fourth with Contreras, but there's one player ahead of him and between him and Mason Wynn.
God, who the hell am I missing? It would be
someone drawing some walks. Let me tell you, he is very popular in Japan.
Oh, Lars Nudibar?
Lars Nudibar. He's got a 337 on base percentage before tonight's game, which is pretty solid. I mean, that's better than Donnie. And that's the thing about Donovan, right? Donovan is like the guy who we expect to work counts and get on base. You know, he's going to make good contact when he swings. He's not going to really hit for power. Although I am curious what his historical slug has been, because I feel like I've been seeing a little bit more power out of him this year than I have in the past. Before he got
hurt last year, I think he was on 20 home run pace before he got hurt.
Was he?
Then his swing changed. I mean, he played through it for a while.
Right. That's more than what he's got now. But even last year, I felt like he was really hitting the ball hard last year before he got hurt.
Oh yeah, he came out the gate and was last year and was playing really, really well. But yeah, I agree. He's what did he end up with? 11 home runs last year.
Right.
So
Arenado is actually worth negative WAR.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because it's because he doesn't have any power, and that's a position where you tend to get power batting, and probably a little bit with the errors.
That's something for people to remember, right? WAR isn't just above the average replacement player. It's average replacement player at your position.
Yes. Yep.
And people don't realize that, right? Like,
right.
You know, it's like, oh wow, this is a 10 win above replacement season. Okay. 10 wins above replacement compared to that position.
Right. And there's also like adjustments in the calculation for that position to that's how they average it out. They adjust the stats slightly because, you know, your first baseman tends to also be a power hitter. Your right fielder tends to be a power hitter. So Jordan Walker looks really bad and below replacement level because he's being compared to every team's best hitter.
He was also playing below replacement level. So,
this year. This year,
start, his hitting this season was below replacement level. So last year, he did really well.
Yeah, but I think his cumulative stats last year actually still were practically negative because he started off so bad.
Yeah, I was like, he was right around replacement level. I don't remember if he was slightly negative or slightly positive, but I know it wasn't great at the end of the year. I tell you who's, again, you know, Mason Wynn, I think was he at 2.4 or something when we did our episode last week when we had that discussion?
Yeah, he was at 2.3 last week. He's at a flat 2.0 now.
So it happens when you make a lot of errors.
That is what happens when you make a lot of errors. When you win games, too, you get more WAR because you have to win to earn wins. So,
tell that to Mike Trout's 12 WAR season, whatever it was, when his team lost 90 games.
Yes, and go back and watch what won the game in all of those games, and it's always Trout. God, I hate the Angels so much. For a team that is not in the NL Central, that is the team that I hate more than anything. I hate them more than the Yankees. I hate them more than the Red Sox. The Angels are a trash organization. And if by chance you are an Angels fan listening to this, I don't hate you. I hate your team. And I have a feeling that you and I probably have a lot of the same views about that organization. But I want to point out that they ruined Mike Trout, or they wasted Mike Trout. They wasted a lot of great years from Shohei and basically, you know, ruined Albert Pujols' enjoyment of the game. So And they had all three of them.
At the same time at one point.
At the same time. And they couldn't make the playoffs. Like, what is wrong with you guys?
If they, honestly, I don't know what they're, like, they have, we give a lot of crap about the Cardinals in the front office and how they put together rosters and things.
Right.
The Cardinals put the Angels to shame time and time again. Yeah. And it's not even close. So if you ever want to feel like good about the Cardinals, look at the Angels starting in like 05, 06 onward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Because, when Mike Scioscia was there and that 02, was it 02 that they beat the Giants
they were
and Barry
so
Bonds
in
the World Series.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I mean, that Eckstein, I think was one of their players. That was before we got Eckstein. And like, they were that team that would just like go up to the plate and is like, look, we can't hit home runs, but we can sure as hell, foul off about 30 pitches till your pitcher finally makes a mistake and I can put it in the gap.
Right. Who was 2003? Because
2001 was the Diamondbacks.
Then it was the Angels. Then, because 04 was Boston, right?
That was 04 was Boston swept us. Then 05 was the White Sox. 06 was us.
Right. 07, I think, was Boston again. 08 was the Phillies. 09 was the Yankees.
Yes, that was the last Yankees.
Then
10 was the first of the
Giants.
Then it was us. Then it was Giants. Then it was Red Sox. Boston. Then it was Giants.
Yeah. And then it was the Royals, actually. And then it was the Cubs. And then it was Houston. And then 2018. Who was 2018?
I'm still stuck on 2003.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to look it up.
Because like the rest of them, like, yeah, I can roll through that. No problem.
Right.
Don't tell me. Give me just a minute. It's going to come to me.
Ooh. You're going to be
Marlins.
Really upset. Yeah, I was going to say, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, it's going to come to me. It was a flash pan team.
Yeah. Well, because before, anytime the Marlins had made the playoffs, right, they won the World Series. That was their thing. They had never won their division, but they had won the World Series twice, right? So,
well, and who hit had the game-winning hit in Game 7 for their first World Series, right?
No, I don't know.
Edgar Renteria.
Really? No, I did not know that. That's awesome.
So here's a fun Cardinal related tip.
Yeah.
Edgar Renteria was my favorite player for a long.
I know, right? He was so fun.
The Cardinals.
He was so fun.
He was all business, and he was so good. Okay, so back to the Astros won. Who won the year after the Astros in 2018?
Oh, hold up. Nope, not the right year. A team that we do not like. A team
was it the Braves? That wasn't the Braves.
It was not the Braves.
No. I thought the Braves was like 22 or something. 21.
Yeah,
21 was the Braves.
The Braves were 21 or 22. I'll have to build up to that.
Yeah.
2018. It's a team we do not like. It is a team that the city. We have developed a big rivalry with this city over time across many sports, despite not. It's based off of playoff matchups.
Is or Boston won again in 18?
Boston. 19 was the Nationals.
Yeah.
2020 was
that Nationals team was on a tear in the playoffs.
They were. Yeah. And then 2020 was the Dodgers, because the joke is that the Dodgers can't win a real World Series.
They're really good for 162 games, and they didn't have to go past 162 that season.
Right. Exactly. That was 2020. 2021. Who would have been 2021? I'm trying to think who it's been the last.
Was that the Astros
years.
Again? I think it was the
Astros.
I think the Astros won a second one. I think 21 was the Astros. Then that would put 22 as the Braves.
And then who won last year
was the Rangers.
Right. Yeah. No, that sounds right. 21 was the Braves.
Okay, so I had the Braves Astros flip flopped.
Right. 22 Astros, and then 23 we already know is the Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 24 is the St. Louis Cardinals.
I mean, that's not bad for just rolling that off the top of the head between the two of us.
I'm pretty proud of that. I mean, the only teams that we could not remember were 03 and 2018.
But I got 03. With that,
but you did get 03 without me. Yeah. Because all I did was go,
looking it up. So 18 was the only one that we had to actually look up. And it's probably because we hate them and try to block it out of our memory.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like the last year I felt like that stretch, like 2018 is like the last time that I felt like the Cardinals were really good relative to the rest of the leagues.
I felt like we had a chance in 19, but we ran into the buzzsaw that was the Nationals.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, let me rephrase that. I guess after like 2018, maybe 2019, that's when I felt like in 2019 on it is when it kind of started to, yeah. Now, the fun thing about the 2019 playoffs, though, is that I did get to watch we had that really fun game against the Braves in the playoffs.
Oh,
I got to watch that with a huge Braves fan when I was working in Arkansas at a random sports bar down there.
Dude, that first inning was nuts.
Right.
Game 5. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was fun. Back when Cardinals baseball was fun.
That's a thing?
It was a thing. It was a thing.
Reminds me of the God, what is the name of the movie? You guys are getting paid? You guys are having fun?
Right. Yeah. You guys are getting paid? We're the Millers is the movie.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah. It's one of my wife's favorite movies. Oh, God. Have we beat this Cardinals horse to death today? Do you have anything else you wanted to say about him?
Here's my final thought on the Cardinals. If the Cardinals can hover around 500, if they can hover and stay around 500, they got a chance to make the playoffs. They're going to have to clean up the fundamentals. And I think this is what drives me nuts, is that the fundamentals that we had as a team have dropped off since we fired Schill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like,
we just lost, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I have it up on my screen. Yeah. That's why when my sharp intake of breath was, it was top of the 9th, 2 outs, nobody on base. And I was like, this game's over. But of course, we did pinch it for Ciani with Carlson. So.
But no, if the Cardinals can stay around 500, you got a chance at the 3rd wild card spot. Maybe they make a splash if they're sitting in that one of those wild card spots or right at it. Maybe we acquire not something crazy, but something that pushes us to a better contention space. Mm-hmm. And maybe we make a run or surprise some people. And you never know, right? Like, and this sounds bad because I don't want to encourage Mo to think, oh, if we just get in, we have a chance. But the only way you have a chance is to get in the dance anyway. So, maybe we get in the dance. And we've got some superstars that if they get hot, could carry our team. But they've got to remember how to be superstars again.
Those two are not going to remember how to be superstars again. Nolan Arenado maybe could, but I love the man, but Goldie is over the hump. And I think Arenado is hitting that a year or two earlier than Goldie did even. So, but let me ask you this, okay? I am convinced that for us to make the postseason, we need to be buyers at the deadline. How close do you think we need to be? And let's say we're going to frame this in terms of games under 500 at the deadline.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because I'm not going to count up how many games there actually are at that point. How close do you think we need to be for Mo to like pull some triggers, or that he should pull some triggers?
You have to be within 3 games of 500 at the deadline.
Yeah. So if we are 5 games out, he does not try to buy, is what I'm hearing. Okay. And at what record do you think we are too good where he won't buy, like he'll be comfortable with what we have? Or that you would be comfortable with what we have? You could answer either way.
I don't think there's if you're in contention, you can't be happy with what we have. Unless you're like 20 games above 500, which you're not gonna be, you shouldn't be satisfied with what we have on the. I mean, the Phillies might be. I think they are right now. Fuck.
Well, yeah, but that's also,
Yeah, I'm just being
100 games but yeah.
No, well, I don't see it. I just don't see any. If you're in contention and you expect this team to compete, now I'm not saying that's what Mo will do. I'm saying that's where it's at. Now, if you're asking what Mo will do, if you're 5 to 10 games over 500, he's going to more or less stand pat.
Right. And I think if they're over 500, he's not going to do anything. And I think that's especially true if he had, like, say the Brewers like really fall apart or something, and we ended up a couple games over 500, and with like a 4 or 5 game lead on the Brewers at the deadline, he's not going to do anything. Which this goes back to something that you and I have complained about a lot on this show and offline, is that the Cardinals are consistently trying to build this team to win the NL Central and not to compete with the class of the MLB. Yep. And that is setting the bar too low for the expectations of us as fans, as Cardinals fans specifically.
It's not just that. And at this point, I don't even know that we're building to win the NL Central. I feel like we're building to get one of the bottom couple wildcard spots.
Well, I don't entirely. I felt that way before the season. I don't necessarily feel that way right now, because I feel like the reason we are not performing right now is because our hitting has not been fully consistent from start to now in the season. And we've had some really unfortunate injuries with our pitching staff. Losing Middleton, who as of today is out for the year, having his flexor tendon repaired. And Matz, right? Matz is out, right? He's the 5th starter that's out, right? Losing him, and we really did not have an answer behind him, which was something, to be fair, that all of us said at the beginning of the year. But, we weren't framing it as what happens if we lose Steven Matz, who I don't think a lot of us had a lot of confidence in anyway, based on his performance as a Cardinal. It was what happens if Sonny Gray goes down, right? And Sonny Gray has been really good. Lance Lynn has been really good. Gibby has been pretty good for us as well. But, Miles has been, and we don't have an answer for the 5th spot. And you have to have an answer for the 5th spot.
Michaelis has been a 4th or a 5th starter, which is what he is to be. Yeah, and that's what he is. In his and in his best years, he was a number 3 starter. Maybe number 2. But his numbers, he had one year, his first year. His numbers, his first year were number 2 starter-esque. But outside of that, I don't know that I would look at Michaelis and say, oh, he's a number 1 or number 2 starter other than that first year.
Well, definitely not a number 1, but I was thinking 2022 he was. What was his ERA that year? I can't find it here. His ERA was 3.29 in 2022, which is about, it's that border 2 to 3. It's a low 2.
It's a good number 3 starter, right? Like or
it's a good number 3. Yeah.
That's who you want as your number 3, I guess. That's a better way to put it.
Yeah, exactly.
His good years is who you want to be your number 3.
Yeah, I agree. Mic drop. Nothing else to say.
So, but no, I just don't know. They're not going to buy. Now, this is something interesting that as you were saying,
I'm listening.
We're 5 to 10 games under 500, and we're selling.
Okay. Who are we selling?
What are the odds? At that point, you're selling Goldie. You're potentially selling Arenado, whether people want to or not. Those are the 2 big ones that are going to look to be sold. Some of those pitchers on those 1-year deals with club options will potentially go. I mean, realistically, most everyone will be on the table at that point. You're not selling Gorman. You're not selling Mason Wynn.
You're not selling Walker.
You're not selling Walker, and you're not selling Sonny Gray. You're not selling Herrera.
No, I don't think I'd sell. You're not selling Contreras. You're not selling. I think Donnie could be an interesting trade chip, but I wouldn't want them to trade him. But I think he could be.
Yeah, I don't want to lose Donnie Baseball, but he would be a good piece. I don't think they sell Newt. I could see. I
don't think they sell Newt,
but I could see them pretty much selling everybody else on the team.
Yeah,
and you went further than I did with Contreras, because I think for the right price, I could see them selling Contreras.
Really?
With the way Herrera's played?
Well, okay, for the right price, everyone's available. Let's be clear about that, right? I mean, you look at what the Nationals got for Soto, right? Like, for the right price, everyone's available.
Yeah, Carlson should have been available for Soto.
Should have. You know, what pissed me off about that whole thing is that we made this big deal about how Carlson was going to be, you know, the future of the team, and how we weren't going to trade him off for Soto, and he wasn't available. And then as soon as the season ended, we were shopping him around. And it was like, what was the freaking point? I don't think any of the relievers... What? Is this Helsley's last year of control? If it's Helsley's last year of control, I could see him moving at the deadline. If we're out of it. But just because it's your last year of control of him anyway, and if you don't think you can re-sign him...
He's a lights-out closer who is going to fetch a haul for a contender.
Right.
That's what you're looking at, right? Like, you're looking at what's the return you're going to get from these guys.
But it depends on if you think you can re-sign him. If you think you can re-sign him and extend him, then you I don't know. I feel like I would do that. Like, Helsley has been pretty good.
Let me tell you a story about Cliff Lee.
Please.
So Cliff Lee was pitching for the Phillies.
Okay.
The Phillies traded him because their season was tanking.
Yes, I remember.
He finished out the season for them, and then came back and signed with the Phillies. Oh, and then he did it again.
Yeah.
He did it twice.
Let me tell you about a story of Cliff Lee. I'm like, is this going to be about them trading him and then him coming back to Philadelphia because he just liked it there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream, but I don't think any of our players anymore
I'm just being a smart
like,
ass.
Well, no, but I also, like, 10 years ago, I would have believed that, but anymore, I don't think any of these players are as attached to St. Louis as, like, the early 2010s Cardinals were, right?
Yeah.
Or even
that's what you see, like, a Waino or Chris Carpenter doing, right?
Right. Like, yeah, you know what? Loan me out for 3 months, and I'll come back and sign here, and we're gonna build something with what you get from it, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just sad. This. I used to be really proud of the Cardinals, and it has not. I have not been lately.
And all right, lately, let me finish my thought.
Okay.
So we sell off these pieces.
Okay.
Call up a bunch of these young guys who we keep saying aren't ready. What happens if they go on a tear August and September and make the playoff, get to third wild card spot with a bunch of nobodies?
Well, then we sold well.
But how exciting would that be, right? Because, like, you know, we've got some pitchers that, and I don't know why we haven't. Like, there's got to be something I'm missing. And I need to go do a deeper dive into their numbers, but, like, you know,
is there anyone in particular you're thinking of right now?
Well, I mean, Robersay is obviously up there.
Yeah. I don't know how he's doing this year. I have not seen a lot of chatter about how he's been doing. There's a lot of chatter about Tink Kent's at AA, but that's way too big of a jump, I think.
No, he's not the one you're looking for. Robersay, I think, has been our best AAA pitcher this year. He had been, at least at one point. Let me pull it up, his stuff. He's got a 3.53 ERA.
Not bad.
No. He's got where was it? Where's his strikeouts? If I can find his walks is the big one for me. So in 66 innings, he's only got 19 walks. So not great, but also not bad. But in those same 66 innings, he's got 65 strikeouts.
Pretty good. I mean, that's who the Cardinals have targeted, right? Guys who are going to get strikeouts. We used to have a pitching staff completely full of guys pitching to contact, and the game has kind of moved away from that as being effective. So now
it doesn't
it's all
help
about
when your fundamentals go to shit.
Well, yeah, that when you lean into it not working, right?
What happened with Gordon Graceffo is another one that I'm just trying to figure out in my head.
I've not heard a lot about Gordon Graceffo this year either.
His ERA is trash. He's like 4.4 ERA, not trash, but like go from.
Well, yeah, but if you're pitching 4.4 at AAA, and he has improved from last year. If it makes you feel better, he was a 4.9 last year.
Yeah, it was not a great year for him last year.
Which was also his first year at AAA, right? You go up a level, it should be harder, right? Like that's kind of the point. The thing is I would like to see that ERA under 4. Like I want to see him continuing to progress. Team Kent's has been having a really good year, though.
He's still got a lot of walks, which if he can continue that. If he can continue to cut those down, I think that's.
But his walks and hits per inning pitched is only 1.08. Like, take that.
But one of those, the 0.99 of the 1.08 is walks. He's not giving up hits.
How many bases called? In 51 innings this year. Actually, if you compare it to when he was with the Cardinals last year, he pitched 54 innings for the Cardinals last year in Springfield, and he gave up 22 walks. This year, he's pitched 51 innings for the Cardinals and has only given up 15. And he's also reduced his home run rate. He's reduced his hits by like almost 50%. Like, no, he's having a pretty good year. His ERA is only 3.14. Like, no, he's having a good year. He's ready for AAA.
He's having a great year. Again, Michael McGreevy's the other one that I've been really disappointed in because I really had high hopes for him. He's at like a 5.4, I think, or something, or 5 something last I looked ERA.
Yeah, I know you've been high on Michael McGreevy for a while. I have not always. I don't know. I know we drafted him with our first round pick a few years ago, but I don't think he's ever really been that great other than like that one little, he had like a few games where he did really good in Springfield. But
I always saw him as a solid 4 or 5 starter option. I thought he would develop into that, and he just hasn't. Like I thought he was somebody who would hold down the back end of our rotation for, 4 or 5, 6 years. And now I'm not even sure if he'll break it into the rotation ever.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he is still young, right? He's 23. Like, he could still become a successful major leaguer.
Maybe he just needs to have Tommy John so he can get,
Just get Tommy John, throw harder when you come back.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So you didn't do anything to your ligaments. I know, just give me the surgery, doc.
Just give me the surgery. I do wish Baseball Savant had their pitch mix stats for minor leagues. That would make me so happy.
But again, it goes back to, okay, these young guys come up, you get some young pitchers, you get some people come in, get a chance and just surprise you, whatever. Victor Scott comes up and actually makes contact with the ball so his speed can play. Who knows, right? What happens from there? I can see a world where we trade off all the pieces. These young guys come up and just play out of their minds because they have nothing to lose and make the playoffs. And I'm not saying we win the World Series or anything like that, but you make the playoffs and all of a sudden it's like, wow. And then they, give Ollie another raise.
Well, yeah, that's what you do. He's Mo's guy. So, of course, he's going to get a raise. Sonny Gray is in the 95th percentile for K percentage in MLB.
That's
outstanding. That's outstanding. I didn't realize it'd be that high.
Sonny Gray is what they would call a BAM or Bamf.
That he is what they would call a Bamf. Go grab my wallet. Which one's yours? It's the one that says badass motherfucker on it.
So here's, again, we beat this Cardinals horse into the ground. You're wearing St. Louis City hat and a St. Louis City scarf as well. And so
not St. Louis City jersey. Went with the Team USA training kit, warm-up kit, because Copa America starts soon. Wanted to show some love there. I have to tell you, so we played Miami this weekend, and I saw this video that the city refs posted. And it said, we found a Messi fan at the bar. And I almost didn't hit play because I was like, that could be Tyler. Even though I knew what you wore there because I saw Kyle post videos of you dancing at this watch party. Dancing, yeah, that's a loose explanation of your skills.
Dan was in his element on his phone, and
yes.
Varsity Dan did not know what was happening to him. So
I saw the video. Yes, that is an accurate representation of what happened. Apart from you dancing, that part was inaccurate. Stripping was maybe a better term. Stripping with your clothes on still, but it's what it would have led to.
It was more of like a quasi lap dance.
Yeah, there we go. It's accurate.
But anyway, dancing's still in that name, but continue.
Ironically, it is. But anyway, so Mondo posted this video about giving a card to a Messi fan at the bar, and I'm like, that's going to be Tyler. That's going to be Tyler. That's going to be really awkward.
I didn't wear my Messi shoes. I wore my red and blue shoes. I was all in for City.
I appreciate that.
Didn't wear my Messi shirt or a Messi jersey or any of the other bajillion Messi things.
I'm surprised you didn't have the Messi jersey on underneath your City jersey.
So if he just went off, I could just change mid-game.
Yeah.
No, I'm not that kind of a fan. But for my team, right? Like I love Messi. I loved, his reaction when Berkey made that ridiculous save. When
oh my God,
over.
That
you
was
could
hilarious.
Tell he was
just like,
dude, like, I great job. Like, I don't know what to just tell you. Yeah,
like, he was just like in shock, like that ball was stopped. Like you could tell
it was one of those,
in
like,
his mind, he had made.
There's a goalie that also played in the top leagues over there.
Right. Well, and I mean, he's not even the only one. Berkey is the most successful of the keepers in MLS, easily.
Hugo Lloris is up there.
Okay, I take that back because Hugo Lloris did win a World Cup.
A World Cup, yeah. And then just lost in PKs on another one.
Right.
Although he gave up 3 goals in that game, so.
Right. Yeah. How many of them were from Messi, though, right? Didn't Messi have a brace that game?
1 or 2. It might have been 2.
I felt
Di Maria scored the first one.
Right.
Di Maria scored that beautiful goal.
Right. But I keep forgetting that Hugo Lloris now plays in MLS. Oh, well. Yeah, Messi was just totally shook about that. And on his goal, like, he freaking manipulated the heck out of our defense. Like, he took the ball straight to the sideline and then brought it right back, and no one got back into position. And then as soon as he had a little bit of space, he ripped it.
Yeah, so here's how the scoring went down for that game against
the
France.
World Cup game.
In Argentina. Messi scored a PK in the 23rd minute.
Right.
Di Maria scored in the 36th minute. That was the goal I was talking about.
Okay.
Then Mbappe got a penalty kick in the 80th.
Right.
Scored again from play in the 81st.
Right.
Then in the 108th, and the 108th, Messi scored again for his second, and then Mbappe scored in the 118th with another PK.
Right.
With 2 minutes left.
Right. I was going to say, I thought Mbappe had a hat trick that game.
He did, but 2 of them were PKs, so
still counts.
Not in the Bundesliga, it doesn't.
Really?
Did you know in the Bundesliga, they only celebrate a hat trick if there's 3 goals in the same half and it was uninterrupted by any other goals?
Germans.
So Harry Kane scored that hat trick in his first game, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a hat trick," and all the German fans are like, "No, it's not."
They have different expectations in Germany. Hence why Roman Bürki now plays in St. Louis.
Hey, look, they have weird expectations over there. It's why we had to beat them in the World War. Hey, undefeated World War champs.
That's right. Back to back. Back to back World War champs. That's right.
Back to back undefeated World War champs.
That's right. Just brush that dirt off our shoulders there for a moment.
Yeah. That's what I kept telling myself when Germany beat the USA in the was it the 2002 World Cup, that we should have beat them in, but there was some bogus officiating and things.
Hey, let me ask you this. Speaking of the 2002 World Cup, that was, I think, probably a lot of people consider that like our best team, right? Bruce Arena did an interview that was published today in The Athletic, and he made a comment in it about the current U.S. men's national team, that they're basically not tough enough compared to Clint Dempsey. And I'm like, well, I mean, if that's the bar, like nobody is tough enough. So like, let's be like a little bit
pretty
more
sure
normal.
Clint Dempsey could break his leg and then still try to play the rest of the game.
Right, exactly. But anyway, he made a comment that basically the 2002 team would beat the 2022 team, or the current team. And that's, I don't know. I don't know which team I'm taking.
If you want to know who I'm taking and why?
Go ahead.
I'm taking 02. I'm taking 02. First reason, Tim Howard.
Okay. Great reason.
I mean, that guy's freaking.
Guy was lights out.
I'm pretty sure he could still go in goal now and be more lights out than 90% of goalies out there. Tim Howard was ridiculous. But the other piece was how physical that team played.
Well, and I think
how
that's
well
what
they
he was
played
getting
together.
Right.
So there was two pieces. So one was they all played incredibly physical. I mean, they had people like Brian McBride that were way faster than people realize.
Right.
You had Landon Donovan in his prime. You had Clint Dempsey coming into his prime. Right. I mean, these guys were.
DeMarcus Beasley came out in that World Cup, right? Wasn't that the one that
he was 06, but it may have been 02.
I'm gonna look it up.
Either way, though, that team. So, I mean, my thing for them is that they were not just a good team and good individual parts, but that team was so much better than the sum of its parts, and that's something that I think the current U.S. team is missing. Because I don't think the current U.S. team is better than the sum of their parts. I think they are the sum of their parts, but I don't feel like they elevate past that when they get together.
Yes, Beasley's first World Cup was the 2002 World Cup. Yeah, that team was stacked.
And Kobe Jones was still playing then too.
Yep. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
And Kobe Jones had his coming out party on the international stage in the 98 World Cup.
Right.
That was hosted in France, by the way, and France won. Beat Ronaldo 3-1 in the final with Zinedine Zidane popping some goals in off his noggin. I think it was 3-1.
Yeah, but anyway, so totally lost my train of thought there for a moment. But I do think that 2002 team would win because of physicality, and I think that 2002 team had an air of pragmatism that maybe the current team does not, and that's partly because of how they're coached and managed, right? I think there's a much better emphasis now, or a much bigger emphasis now, on playing quote unquote pretty soccer. Whereas historically, and especially with that 02 team, we did not necessarily play to what was aesthetically pleasing. We played to what our strengths were and how we could win.
Which was speed, physicality, and just north-south soccer.
Right. And that's also the stereotype of American players, right? That's why the Germans love signing young American players, is because that, like, we do that very well. Because that's how we play sports in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you go all out every play. You never hold back. Yeah. And if you are holding anything back, like you get in trouble on any team in the country, period. Any sport.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. So, but no, I think the OT team would win, and I don't think it would be a particularly close game. I think the current team would have their chances because they do play pretty soccer, as you put it, but they're going to create some chances. But I think the few chances that they do create would be negated by people like Tim Howard, and just the sheer physicality of that defensive back four.
Yeah. I mean, a physical back line tends to do very well against Pulisic and Gio Reyna, although Gio is rather creative. But anyway, enough about the national team. Let's go back to Messi in Miami and St. Louis City. Yeah, I was not
listening.
Okay, before the game, if you came up to us, I think everyone in St. Louis would have said that if you told them that you were going to walk away with a draw in Miami.
The other one I forgot, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Berhalter was actually a big part of that team.
Right. And Claudio Reyna was still on that team, too.
Yeah.
Because he was the captain, if I remember right.
Probably.
But if you'd have come up to me before the game and said, St. Louis is going to draw Miami, get the point, come home, how do you feel? I'd have been like, that's awesome, right? But the fact that we went ahead 3 separate times and didn't get the win, that's a little upsetting. Although there's not a lot of teams that I think are going to claw back in that situation 3 different times in a single game, right? I think by the third goal, a lot of teams in MLS would kind of deflate and give up. There's not a lot of teams with that kind of poise in MLS.
Yeah. Again, I'm if you told me going in that we would have tied, I would have been happy. Do you remember my prediction for the score?
4-3.
4-3 City win.
Yeah.
And I sat down with the City refs at the table for the watch party. And they were like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I predicted 4-3 City win. And they just like, you're fucking crazy. And every time we scored, Mondo would look over me and I was like, just hold up my fingers. And then all of a sudden it scored 3-3 and he looked over at me with his eyes huge. And I was like,
right.
It's going to be 4-3. And then Big Sam got that chance and didn't capitalize. And I was like, damn it. How sweet would it have been after me talking shit for like 2 hours straight that it's going to 2.5 hours at this point that it's going to be 4-3 if it actually turned out that. Oh my God.
My prediction had been 3-2 City win. And I was actually the only person in the charity challenge to guess 3 goals. So I'm the only one who yes. got a point this week. Don't ask where I'm at in the standings. It's low. But I think
you should ask me more.
No. The person who's in front has like 7, and I think I have 3. So it's not like nobody's doing very well. Yeah, nobody's doing very well. But yeah. So when they went up 3-2 on the own goal, I was like, "This is it. This team is locked in. We're gonna do it." And then freaking Marcanic kept Alba on sides, and yeah, and that's a thing that's beginning to concern me. If I don't know if Jake Girdwood Reich, who is our new signing from Australia, is able to play left back. I don't think they project him as a left back. Kangaroo song. That's going to be the new chant. We're going to manifest this into existence. I don't think they project him as a fullback at all. And I'm really torn because I think we still need more attacking help, but I also think we really need to figure out the left back situation. And I'm not saying that we need to give up on Dewar yet, but like this has happened so many times with Marcanic that he has screwed up the line for someone running onto a ball. Like it happens every other game, it seems like.
I have 2 players that I think I'm going to throw out at you, and one is going to be an easy, like, yeah, we should probably give him a chance, and the other one may make you make a face here.
Okay.
I have 2 players on the current roster that I think we should at least entertain at left back.
Okay, I'm listening.
the first one is going to be pretty obvious. You want to guess who I'm thinking?
I have given up a long time ago thinking
Akil
that whatever
Watts.
you consider obvious is obvious. That one actually is. I would not say obvious, but it was a thought I had as well.
But obvious of the options.
Yeah. Because he did play it a little bit in preseason, and I feel like he lined up there for one of the games.
And he played a lot of right back last season for us.
Right. And obviously right back and left back are not exactly the same, right? Because of the foot that you're using primarily and stuff like that. But as far as positioning goes, it is similar, right?
And he's got the speed to make the runs and be very Totland-esque over there if we need him to be.
Yeah. Right.
The other one is another central defensive midfielder by position. Yep.
Yeah. I would be intrigued by Blom. I honestly think Blom might end up our starting everyday 6 defensive midfielder, because I think Durkin's probably going to be moved to right mid. Maybe not immediately. I just think that that's where it's going to end up while we wait for Alm to come back. I would continue riding out Kojima at the 10 because he played so well and he brought creativity that we had been lacking from that position.
And just energy. I mean, the guy's work rate is absolutely insane.
Right. And I mean, how many people get to come in and like say same thing with Celio, like you took the ball off Messi, right?
Twice.
like that is like, well, no matter what happens in your career, you have
I wish
that.
You were there. Lindsay looked at me and you know, there was like a break in the game or whatever. And Lindsay was like, dude, Celio's having a great game. And Mondo's there. And he's like, yeah, and whatever. And I was like, dude, he's Brazilian playing against the best Argentinian there is. Of course he's going to ball out.
Right. Although Klaus did not ball out, and he's also Brazilian.
Brazilian,
right? German, right? German, Italian, supposedly.
If your last name is Klaus, and I get that you were raised in Brazil, but you're not true Brazilian the way that Celio is.
But to be fair, when your first name is Joao, that's pretty Brazilian. It's pretty Portuguese.
Yeah, but he doesn't have 8 names, and Celio does. So
yeah, he does.
Does he? Oh, I'm gonna pull up. Keep going.
Yeah, no, he has like it's not as many as Celio, but it is a you would see it and be like, oh yeah, that's a Brazilian name. I did actually. I tweeted something after the game about the people that I was really impressed with, and I forgot to include
João Klaus de Mello.
That's Brazilian.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not Brazilian, but I mean, it's not
Celio's name, which is ridiculous.
Celio Antonio Pompeo Pinheiro Martins.
Right. Oh my God, you got me distracted again, and I forgot what I was going to say. Don't know. Don't care.
It's fine. But again, we had some players elevate. I thought Leuven had a great game.
Yeah, Leuven had a really good game.
I think if Leuven was 90 fit, or he had been playing
80, I was like shocked that they let him play 80. That blew my mind.
And yeah, but I think if he had been playing, and this wasn't his first game starting since everything. Also, our thoughts and best wishes go out to his wife and her battle, obviously. But if he had been playing more and been more fit, I think the end of that game or even other parts of that game looked differently, because I think there was times that you could tell he was still just trying to get back into the feel of the game, playing the game.
Yeah, because I think
not the longest. It wasn't like super obvious, but if you've watched Leuven play, and normally, right, when he's full in versus there was moments where it's like, well, Leuven's usually a step quicker there, or he's usually, whatever.
Well, but he did on Indy's goal. He stepped really quick on that, right? Yeah. To set up to get that takeaway. I would say too that
I'm not saying the whole game. I just mean there was moments.
Right. Well, and I think what feeds into your point there is that I think last week he had only played like 20 minutes. And I think the time before that, he'd only played 10 or 15 minutes. So it wasn't like he's really that's a big jump there. I thought he was going to play a half or maybe 60 because of the injury to Alm. I thought 60 would be it.
I think the injury to Alm forced their hand there.
Yeah. And that, that's going to happen, especially And this is something I want to get your thoughts on why this is. So historically, BC subs out almost all of the attackers, right? He does not make subs on the back line unless someone is playing really bad or gets injured.
Mm-hmm.
We ran out of attacking-minded subs in that game because AZ did not dress. So on the bench, we had Blom and Hebert and Yarrow and Watts and Nowinski. I don't think they were dressed for that game.
I'll pull up the picture and tell you.
But it doesn't matter. Either way, we had, you bring in 18 players. There's 5 of them right there, right? And in fact, I can guarantee you we didn't, because we also had Lunt and we had Thor and Sam. So, I think 19 players is what you can bring.
We had Sam, Blom, Hebert, Kojima, Nowinski, Thor, Watts, Yarrow, Lund.
Yeah. So there you go.
Lunt.
Sorry. So AZ not dressing is a little concerning to me, especially because that is a team that you would expect AZ's strengths to play well on, because they're not exactly, they do press quickly, but they're not really a team that's that good defensively. Clearly, we scored 3 goals on them, right? So, clearly.
We scored 2. Suarez scored the 3rd.
What a
Suarez
nice
technically
guy.
had 2 goals that game.
That's right. People have said a lot about Suarez, but the one thing everyone agrees is that he's a nice guy who will score goals for you.
I did try to get City Refs to take me up on a prop bet on whether or not, if we were winning the game, if Marcanic would piss off Suarez enough that he'd get bit. Nobody took me on the bet.
I probably would have agreed with you on that bet. No one would take that bet.
They were like, "Do you don't think he'll bite Parker?" And I'm like, "Do you think anybody's biting Parker? Because he's going to knock him out." And they're like, "Oh, good point."
Right. But without AZ in there, so, I mean, on the one hand, you could say, well, you might want to make more defensive subs because it's such a strong attacking team and whatever. But if you watch their games, there's no, and just logically, you're not going to stop that attack, right? All you can do is try to contain it and punch back and try to counter on them, so that you either outscore them because they're going to score, so you just need to score as much as you can, or just like really throw off their rhythm by playing physical and playing against them. And I think we did that really, really well. And I think one of the things that hurt us is that we didn't have any more attacking subs to bring on to continue the press. And we could have brought Blom on, and we didn't. The only reason I can think of for why that particular sub did not occur is because Blom can be caught out because he's not very structurally sound in the team structure sometimes. He can definitely leave some space. I think Durkin does that too, but I think Durkin gets back to his home quicker, or at least
I think he stays home a little more.
You do?
I say stays home. I think he stays within the structure a little more. Like, he makes the runs, but he makes the runs within the structure of where he's supposed to be.
I guess my view of it is, I don't know if he necessarily stays home more within the structure, but I think when he leaves his home, he gets the ball more consistently and more aggressively, whereas I think Blom is really more of like a sideline to sideline sweeper. Mm-hmm. Whereas Durkin will press up and to win the ball.
Blom is more like your traditional 6, and Durkin plays more like your box-to-box 8.
Yes, Durkin is definitely more box-to-box, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we've been more successful this year with him, especially without Leuven, which I think Ostrak played really well as a box-to-box. But that's the thing that we were just talking about last week with Kaler, right? With Perez, right? If you can't play box to box and with the ball and pass it, like that's something that you will struggle with to play as a 6 if you don't have those skills. And I think when you look at Blom's game, he's very, very good at winning the ball back. He's not always the most consistent with what goes from there. He's almost completely gone when it comes to possession, other than if he won the ball.
The only sub that I really didn't love was the Thorson.
Yeah.
I would have rather seen Blom or Watts come in that spot, who can both push forward, but still have more, are better defensively.
Right. Or, you put them at right back, right? And push Totland up to a right mid. You're telling me Thomas Totland can't play right mid?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right? Like bring in one of those guys, put him at right back, and push Totland up. And but I agree with that 100%, right?
100%.
There were some options there, and I don't, we keep running Thorson out, and this is one of those, this is probably my biggest annoyance with Carnell.
Mm-hmm.
Is he likes to talk, and you and I we had this offline discussion, and I kind of want to highlight it because I think it's good to talk about, hear the random things that you and I talk about offline sometimes. But we talked about how Carnell loves to reward people who train well and are so good in practice and whatever. Mm-hmm. But at a certain point, you either do or you don't have it on game day. And Thorson, as much as I love the guy and I want him to be more than he is, or to show us what he had, like, you look at his game tape for before he came over, and he was a great player and he was a consistent player, but I say great and consistent, but I mean like comparatively, but a different, very different league. It was not to the same level that MLS is.
I think that's the key part right there, is that it was a league that's below that level.
And he has not taken that step forward that you would have hoped to have seen from him by now. Right. So I feel like you need to stop rewarding practice. Yes, make him continue to train hard. And yeah, in certain games, there's going to be opportunities to bring him in. You can dress him for the bench, and if the opportunity arises. But in a competitive game where we're trying to close out, he is not the guy we need to be bringing in.
Right.
We talked a lot about Isaac Jensen, and that was a big thing where he always talked about how good he was in training, But I feel like that situation you kind of highlighted was different in a lot of ways. And while it still was frustrating to me, because I'm like, I don't care how good he is in training, he's not showing me what I need to see in games. But you talked about that it was more in that, you had heard that it was more in training camp. He had shown out in training camp and looked great, and then never truly recovered after that injury.
Right. What I was kind of thinking about with Thor is like comparing him to my expectations for Toyert coming in, right? And the fact that Toyert is also coming from a lower quality league from the second Bundesliga, right? The two Bundesliga, compared to MLS. It is below MLS in quality of play. But, he is a former Bundesliga player, right? Whereas Thorson had never reached anything close to that. He has a history of playing with Leuven, so he's going to have more chemistry right off the bat with it. He played in regularly in the German youth system, whereas I think Thorson has been capped like once with Iceland, which is nowhere near the same quality of play. So I do think that there are some differences there, although at first glance, you may think like, well, Thorson didn't make that jump. Is Toyert going to make the jump? And I do think Toyert is more likely to make that jump. I do think that Jake Girdwood Reich is more of a future signing, our other new signing. The fee, there's some debate over how much we've paid to acquire him. He is under the U22 initiative, so his transfer fee doesn't affect our cap, and his cap hit will be this year $150,000, and then when he turns 20, he may have actually just turned 20, but it will be $200,000 after that. We've spent Sydney FC, his former team, is reporting that it was a 7-figure fee. Well, Matt Baker is reporting on Twitter that is probably in Australian dollars, which it turns out are American dollars are worth more than Australian dollars, if you did not imagine. So it's really probably more like $800,000 for the transfer fee, but that's still a really big transfer fee for us, right? I mean, how much? What do you think Leuven's transfer fee was?
It wasn't much. I don't think. I want to say it was like 600,000 or 500,000, something like that.
It was a little bit more than that for Leuven. Leuven was 1 million euros, which comes out to about $1.1 million. Yeah. Klaus's was more. Klaus, I think, had like a 3 million euro, 3.2 million euro, and that comes up to like $3.5 million US, which is why Leuven could be bought down with allocation money, and Klaus cannot be bought down out of DP status. But because he's only 19, like, yes, we've spent a lot of money to acquire him, but this is a developed kind of guy, and he may not ever really fully start for us. This is a guy that we're going to try to get to a level to probably sell on for a lot of money in 4 or 5 years. Like, that's what we're targeting with him. And with a center back, like, there may not be a lot of game time for a while with young center backs.
Yeah, well, and just the way that our team is constructed, right? I mean, Parker, is this the last year Parker's contract right now?
Yeah, so Parker and Yarrow are both out of contract fully at the end of this year. You and I have talked a lot offline.
They're going to re-sign Yarrow for sure, at the cost we would need to sign him.
Right,
because he fits the system so well.
He makes $90,000 a year. He fits the system really well because he's very fast, still very fast. So he's great in transition, and he's on like the leadership council. Like, he was the captain of the City 2 campaign before the first MLS season. Like, I can't imagine they don't re-sign Yarrow because he's just so cheap. Like, he's so inexpensive that it's
even if you give him a raise, he's not hurting your cap.
Right. Like, you kind of
give the guy $150,000 a year, double his salary, give him 180. It's not gonna, like 90,000 is not going to hurt your cap.
No. Parker, I don't want them to, let Parker go, but if they did, I would get it from a cap perspective.
It just depends on what he's going to want to stay here.
Right. Because we could fit his current salary in if we paid it fully. So for the listeners, for those of you who don't know, Houston still pays half of Tim Parker's salary, which makes it very team friendly for us. Well, if you think about it, if we sign him next year, okay, his salary is going to automatically double because we're going to be paying the full amount. And then when you add in a raise, it's possibly 2.5 times what we currently pay him. That's a little bit more complicated to fit. We can do it, I think.
I just don't know that you have to give Parker a raise. And here's my thoughts on why, right? He's proven that he only fits a certain style of a pressing team, right? Like, that is where he is shown to be at his best, right? He was at his best with New York Red Bulls. He hopped around a little bit and struggled. Coming back to us, he kind of revived his career. And I say struggled. He didn't play to the same level that he did.
He is at his best in a pressing system.
And
yes,
so
his
value, his value truly comes being in a pressing team. There's only so many pressing teams in MLS. He's not really going to go
4.
I think there's like 4 or 5. So he's got probably 4 or 5 suitors. But the next thing is I mean, like, I think Parker really enjoys being in St. Louis.
Yeah.
And I think he wants to be here. So I'm not saying he's taking a true like hometown discount, but I think if we're willing to match what he's being paid now for 2 more years, I think he takes it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me.
But even if he doesn't, it's not going to... Winsel,
they can easily cover his salary, though. So, I showed you some of the way the numbers would work. If they don't sign anyone else, like, they could easily cover the cost of his salary. If they don't sign anyone else, and especially if they let Parker go, they could easily... In fact, I think they can do it even if they keep Parker. They could easily cover the cost of buying down Berkey or Leuven and adding another DP. There is definitely ways with that.
There's a lot of financial flexibility in this team, and that's good. Like, everyone keeps saying, "Oh, spend more, spend more, spend more." It's like, no, we need to be targeted with how we spend money, so that we don't end up into a hole like some of these other teams have been,
Toronto and Chicago.
I was like, you already know exactly where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Where you spend money, and you spend money just for the sake of spending money to get a big name player, and they don't fit your system. They can't do what you need them to do. And you wind up, sucking for extended periods with contracts you can't get rid of.
Right.
But the other thing with the new signing is Winsel.
I know. I've been thinking a lot about Winsel since this signing was announced, because I don't like, that was the progression was kind of what I expected from Vincel, and I think that he still probably is on that progression. But
you need
I don't know. Well, you only need 2 to play.
So you need more than 2, but you need 2 starters, right? And Nielsen, and I see, even if we re-sign Parker, I see Nielsen and Parker having each maybe a couple good years left where they can be starters at best, right? Nielsen at maybe best. Less than Parker with his knees, right?
I actually think Nielsen probably has more time left than Parker. Nielsen is
the reason that I think of that, the reason I would think that is positioning wise. He is much smarter with his positioning.
Exactly. I think he's much better with his positioning, which should last longer, right? I mean, look at Tim Ream, right? Tim Ream has made a hell of a career in the Premier League because he has really good positioning. He is not fast enough to keep up with the attackers in the Premier League, but he anticipates really well. I think Nielsen has that skill, especially at MLS level. And Parker's game is more built upon speed than Nielsen's is, which happens for a lot of guys who are really fast. You incorporate that into your game. And as soon as that goes, like Parker could adapt and become, a positioning based player, but he also could not. And I don't know, he's 31 right now. I think he just turned 31 this spring. So I don't know, 2 years, 2 good years, maybe 3.
I think maybe 2 good years. But I mean, if you say 2 years for Winslow and our new signing to kind of be ready to take over the reins, and then you've got Nielsen at that point as kind of your senior, mentor guy for the group.
Right. Well,
it's not unreasonable.
Here's another thought that I have for Vincel, right? You and I talked about it before the season. Like, why not sign him to a first team contract and then loan him out, right, for a season, so that way he can get a higher level of play. And I think that with this, that's still an option for him. And there's also a chance that Yaro loses a step, right? Yaro is the youngest of those 3. He is 29. So I think he's got a few more years of his speed left compared to Parker. But I mean, I think Yaro has 4 years of a quality MLS center back, and we already mentioned that he's going to be relatively inexpensive. So I think he's a slam dunk extension. And you and I have talked so much about Kyle Hiebert offline about how much value he should be bringing to a Canadian team. Honestly, of all of them, he is the one that I least expect to be on the team next year. I know the team thinks very highly of him, but he has to be so valuable to some of these Canadian teams with the way their roster designations work, that like, if we can get several 100,000 in GAM for him, 400,000 or 500,000 in GAM, maybe an international slot too, like, that's a deal you make for sure.
No, every time. And the thing is because, and for those of you who aren't familiar with the MLS roster construction rules, Canadian teams get bonus roster spots, or like have roster spots designated for Canadian citizens.
Right, they count as domestic players, so they don't have to use international slots for them.
And so with Kyle Hiebert being a Canadian citizen, that allows them so he has additional value to a Canadian team than he'd have to the teams in the continental US.
Yeah.
And I say continental US because we don't have any teams in Alaska or Hawaii yet.
No, yet. God, the travel. Could you imagine complaining about the travel? Everyone complains about going to Vancouver.
I have another fun thing to bring up that's not MLS related, but soccer related when we're done with this. Okay. Before we go,
the only thing I was going to say is they also their version of the Open Cup requires they have at least 3 Canadian starters in each game. And you and I both think that Kyle could start for the Canadian MLS teams. Maybe not Vancouver, but Montreal and Toronto, I think, easily could push for a starting spot. Those teams are trash.
He is a borderline team. Like, he's a borderline MLS starter on any team, right? Unless they are stacked at center back depth.
Very few MLS teams are stacked at center back.
Yeah. And the thing is when he plays center back, he does a decent job. I mean, does he have room to grow? Yeah, but the problem is that I don't feel like he's truly growing at City, because he's not getting the game time he needs. to take that next step, to see if there's another. If I don't know that there's a step in his game, but I think even if it's not like, skill or, speed or whatever, I think he has a little bit more to learn and give as far as positioning and awareness, but he's not going to get that playing for City because he's not going to get the playing time.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you think Kyle Hiebert is a better center back than Lucas Bartlett?
Watching both of them play, I would put them on the same level, but they have different strengths.
They're different, right?
Yeah, so they're hard to compare for me, but like right. I would put the same value on the two of them.
So Bartlett, and granted, I don't think they were intending this when we sent him with Stroud, or at least I don't think they made it seem like they were intending this. But Bartlett has been a locked-in starter for DC. And so,
and rightfully so. He's played
so good for them. He's played so good for them. And so just like thinking about that, like, granted that's another pressing team, and Bartlett is another guy who's big and physical and fast. So like a pressing transitional defense works well for him.
And he's faster than Hiebert, which plays. Oh,
he's so much faster than Hiebert. I think Yarrow's faster than Bartlett, but other than Yarrow, Bartlett was probably our fast. Well, Totland doesn't count, but I meant of our center backs. Yeah, of our center backs, he was probably our second fastest. Although John Bell was very fast too. Bell could run.
He never got the opportunity to play, but he's out there starting now.
Yeah, he was starting a few times. I think last I heard, because he missed our game because he was hurt. So I need to look into that, see if I think he had like a tight hamstring or something. Because I was really hoping that he'd get to play, when we played Seattle, just to like give him a homecoming. But anyway, that's enough about center backs for now. I think Vince's still got a shot. But
okay, so we've got roughly 7-8 weeks till we get quote unquote reinforcements. Alm's out. You said what? 7 to 9 weeks, something like that.
They're calling it 6 to 8 weeks, which basically takes him to the start of League's Cup is when he'll start ramping up. And the nice thing about that is that if he doesn't play in League's Cup, that gives him like another 4 weeks to recover before League play. So like, and considering we all like were convinced that he tore, his ACL or something, and it's just a sprain, like he could still get him for the back third of the season, like best case scenario.
All right. So we're going to get Alm back. We got Tukert coming in.
Yep.
And I got to figure out how to pronounce his name. Is it Tukert? I tried to look it up. Toyert?
Yeah. It's like the word toy and the word hurt, like combined.
Okay. I've tried to like look up like translation things, and all of them seem wrong. So anyway, but he's coming in. Obviously I don't really consider our new Australian friend as reinforcements at this point, just because he's young and the league he's coming from is not near the level we're at. But we've got 2 reinforcements coming back. We've got Alm coming back. We got Toyer coming in. Where do you feel like we need to be heading into the League's Cup break? What do we need to do over these, we'll say, the next 8 games?
Well, I mean, we need to start winning at home. Like, first off, like we've dropped way too many points at home. I think we've actually played decent away I've been pretty happy with how we've played away, but we've drawn several times at home. We've lost 2 or 3 games at home. Definitely 2. Like that's just unacceptable, especially in MLS with the travel that the other teams have to do to come play here. I do think we just finished a really tough stretch of games against LA, Cincinnati, Miami, and also Seattle, although Seattle is not as good as they have been, but like that's probably the top 3 teams in the league in Cincinnati, Miami, and LAFC. And we just played all of them in like a 10-day stretch or a 2-week stretch.
Yeah. I would put RSL up there this year.
Yeah. That rounds out my top 4 right there. So it's going to get a lot easier. Like we have this game against Portland. We have Dallas. We have Atlanta, who has not played very well this year. We have another game coming up against a team that's not played very well. So like we have opportunities to start taking points, and we're going to have to if we want to salvage this season. Like draws are not going to be helpful. We're approaching the point where drawing hurts just slightly less bad than a loss. Like that only getting 1 point is going to start hurting us more. So
upcoming games, we got Portland, who's been on a tear recently, but Portland, Dallas, Colorado, Atlanta, Vancouver.
Right. Vancouver's going to be hard. Both of those Vancouver games, because I think we played both. I think we played Vancouver twice before the League's Cup break. We played both home and away by the middle of July.
Because
Colorado.
Because then we go San Jose, Colorado again, Vancouver again. Second game against Seattle. Second game against KC.
Then of that stretch though, like okay, San Jose very bad this year, right? Like,
and that's at home.
That's at home. Those are points we should get. Colorado is 5th, I think, in our conference, but like I think we could probably compete with them. They're not. I don't think they're that terribly good. Where I'm like,
and we got 2 games against them.
And we got 2 games against them. Kansas City not having a great year. So
but that's in KC and a rivalry game, so it's unpredictable.
Yeah, it is, but like we can hang with this KC team. And plus, City Park West. So there we go.
Dallas is beatable for sure.
Dallas is so beatable. But Dallas,
and Atlanta, it depends on what Atlanta team shows up. Atlanta's so streaky.
Well, they also just fired their manager yesterday, so now they have a new coach bump coming for a few weeks.
New coach bump. Son of a
bitch. Right. Dallas is a trap game to me because they're not very good this year. They've had a ton of injuries, but somehow weird crap happens when we play them, and then they somehow end up just parking 7 guys in front of the net, and we can't do anything. So, but it's an away game, and the thing that sometimes I think helps us on away days is that the home teams, they try to like play a little bit more organized and be more exciting for their home fans, right? And that tends to open things up for us to do what we like to do. So I'm hoping that helps us against Dallas.
Yeah, so I made the comment about Hawaii and Alaska.
Yes.
And I know I sent this to you already.
Sure.
But did you see the addition to the CONCACAF that is potentially coming?
About Greenland? That's going to be so awesome. That's going to be so... We are going to an away game there. Like,
oh God,
100%.
we're going to find a time at some point that we're going to, you, me, and both of our wives are going to fly out and go to Greenland so we can watch a USA men's soccer game.
Yeah.
In Greenland the pictures of their stadiums are just hilarious. But here's what I find amusing, right? Imagine in the CONCACAF, Turks and Caicos or whoever has to play home and away with Greenland.
Or any of these Central American countries. Team. Well, do you remember, like, was it Panama, like, was worried about how cold it was in Minnesota when they played the U.S. last year? Like, could you imagine going to Greenland? Like, because they have open stadiums, right? Like, if I remember right, like, I think most of the pictures I've seen have been open, whereas, like, Canada has a lot of dome stadiums for their national team.
The picture of the stadium I sent you, which I don't know that this is where they would play, is a giant soccer field on the edge of the ocean with legit icebergs in the background.
Yes. Yeah. I saw that one. I did laugh.
There's no stands, like, so like, that's not where they're going to play. But like, it's just a funny thing to think about.
Right. It made me think of Como Stadium because Como Stadium is right on the lake, right? But I was like, oh, that's the ice version of Como.
But yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think these next 8 games, I think in my mind, we need to, if we can get, we say 8 games, if we can get, 3 wins, 3 draws.
What is that?
I think that puts us in a good position. I think that puts us in a good position. 12 points over 8 games, 1.5 a game. I think it keeps us competitive at the bottom of the conference. I think if we want to make a move and we actually want to get into like the middle of, the 6 seed, 5 seed and actually compete, I think you need minimum 4 wins and 2 to 3 draws.
Yeah. That's kind of what I would like to see out of that stretch is 4 wins, 2 draws. And realistically, 3 draws would be best.
You should beat San Jose. You should win at least one of the Colorado games. You should beat Dallas.
Should be Dallas.
So really,
that's 3
just
wins.
One.
Well, and we should beat Portland. We should beat Portland.
Portland's been playing real good as like they're a hot team right now. So this is not the time that I wanted to play Portland.
I'm actually like sometimes Portland right now because I haven't been paying that close of attention to them. But in addition to that, like Atlanta is beatable, right? Like, okay, so yeah, Portland's only lost once in their last 4 games. But I mean, when you look at the teams they beat, okay, they beat Austin. What to do? They beat SKC. What to do? They beat San Jose. They drew against Houston. Like that, the draw against Houston is probably the most impressive result they got of that stretch. And they lost to Minnesota. And Minnesota's pretty good this year. Although Austin is up to 6th in the standings. Wow, that surprises me. But
well, that's if we could close out some games, we would be ahead of all these teams.
Well, the other thing that I would point out is that Austin has 2 games in hand on us. Like a lot of the teams ahead of us have at least one. Only Minnesota is on 15 games like us of the teams ahead of us. If we win those 2 games, we go up to 23 points and we tie Austin in the points total. And we would probably jump them because they have a negative goal differential. And
if we won
those 2 games, we would. So, like, that's doable. I mean, like you think about that stretch. I'm pulling up the schedule again if I can figure out where it's at on here, and I don't know where it's at on FotMob.
It goes.
Oh, here it is. Boom, got it.
It's like Portland, Colorado twice, LA or Atlanta. Then you've got Vancouver twice. Vancouver are a little, hit and miss. I think the home game, I think we got a chance. Going to Vancouver, I think, if you want my honest opinion, if we can escape with a draw, that's a victory for us. Vancouver's a tough place to play, and especially on the turf.
Right. Like, so 1, 2, 3,
and we have a
4,
game
5, 6,
at Seattle
7,
on their turf.
Right. 8, 9, 10. So
and
we have 10 games.
We have 3 games on turf in that stretch.
Right. So that's 10 games. Those 3 games I consider losses. Like, I don't expect to win any of those games on turf. Okay. I think we should beat Portland. It's a home game. Like, we should beat Portland.
We have to win. We have to win that game.
We have to win that game. I think we have to win at Dallas. Okay. When you look at Colorado and Atlanta, I think if we get a draw in one of those games and win the other one, that's good. But those are both home games, the first 2. So really, we should be winning those games. Okay. Play at Vancouver. That's an L. Move on. San Jose, we have to win that game. Like, we absolutely have to beat San Jose. That's 4 wins right there in one draw.
4 wins and a draw.
Right.
Yep.
Play at Colorado. Could get a draw there. I think that'd be fine. We could possibly even beat there, but it's also not home against Vancouver. That's going to be a hard game because Vancouver's really good this year. Home.
I think we draw either Colorado away or Vancouver at home. So I'll put another draw in there. I think we draw one of those 2 games.
So what are we up to? 4 wins, 2 draws.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. At Seattle, that's a loss, I think. And then at Sporting Kansas for the last game before Leagues Cup.
Should be a win, but be with a rivalry game, you never know. We'll say before the Sporting KC game, of the 10 games, we got what should be 4 draws and at least 4 wins and 2 draws.
Yes.
I think realistically we need to win. If we're playing 10, we need to win 5 of them.
Yeah.
We need to get W's in half of them.
We need to claw a W in one of those other games that we are unsure about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we did that, if we did that, then at 25 games, which would be the Leagues Cup break, we would be at 32, 34, 5 wins and 2 draws. We'd be at 34 points with 9 left to play after. Like, I'm okay with, like, that's where we should be going into Leagues Cup, 34 points. Because if you have 9 games left, you need probably 46 points. So that's 4 wins in your last 9 to make the playoffs, like to comfortably make the playoffs. Like, that's not even getting a home field game. That's just being comfortable in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I don't know, getting a 7 seed.
Right. And I don't, or possibly even an 8 seed. Like, honestly, our games after Leagues Cup at Portland, we could win that game. Home against the Galaxy, that's going to be a fun game. That's going to be a really fun game. At New England, probably a loss. Home against Minnesota could go either way. At San Jose, it's a game we can win. Home against Kansas City, we should win.
44 points was the 8 and 9 seed last year.
Oh, there you go.
Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference, it was 43 points for the 8 and 9 seeds.
And then after we play Sporting Kansas at LA.
Did you say 46 was the goal?
I think 46 is the goal.
I said that'd be a 7 seed. That was the 7 seed last year.
That would be the 7 seed. So
look at us.
Look at us.
Who'd have thought? Not me.
Not me, right. So we have to win 4 of our last 9. And I'm looking at that last 9, and there's only 1 game that I say is like a game that we, maybe 2 games that I would say like we are definitely
at LAFC.
At LAFC, and that's a midweek. Then we come back and we host Houston, which could go either way against Houston. And then we go to Minnesota for decision day on the 19th. So I don't know. Of that last stretch, the only games that I'm like confident that we like will win are playing like at San Jose, unless San Jose really figures some crap out, or hosting Sporting, which is, it's a rivalry game, but they're also the worst team that we're hosting in that stretch. I think we could beat LA. I think we could win at Portland. I think we could beat Minnesota when they come here or when they go there. I mean, we lost to them here and beat them there last year, so it could happen again. I don't know. So much going on.
We'll see. I think it's definitely going to change, be impacted by, how, our new signings are able to help or not help, and what kind of form they're in when they make it over here.
Yeah.
And, who do we sell off, or do we make more changes? Because I still think Lutz has something up his sleeve that we don't know. I hope
so. I mean, and the window doesn't even open for another 6 weeks, right? So, like, there is a lot of time before the window closes for him to find someone to make a move. Yeah. So, like, just because we're not hearing it yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen, right? People are like, well, we haven't heard any new rumors. Like, Christ, like, the window isn't even open yet. Like, we have become, as a fan group, I think, entitled. So
it's the Messi effect. Because Messi's in MLS, we should be able to get anybody we want in MLS for our team too. And it's just not true.
Yes.
What is exciting about the next 10 games is that we have 2 chances to beat up on Stan Kroenke's team.
Love that.
I love that for us. And you know why? I love
that for us. Why?
Because Stan Kroenke, we hate you. Good night, everyone.